Hello Bears fans, I'm Dustin Davis and welcome to another video. One upcoming matchup could push Chicago's leadership toward the choice they've been avoiding all season. The Bears organization faces mounting questions about roster construction as they prepare for a schedule stretch that will test both their immediate competitiveness and their longer vision. Internal tension over how to address glaring weaknesses has intensified, particularly in the backfield, where performance hasn't matched expectations. Meanwhile, the front office watches rival clubs position themselves for deadline acquisitions that could further complicate an already brutal division landscape. The path forward remains unclear, and the stakes grow heavier with each passing week. What the Bears choose to do, or not do, in the coming days will echo far beyond the season. The window for decisive action is narrowing, and the organization's next steps will reveal whether they're truly committed to competing now or still hedging their bets on tomorrow. First, friends, can I ask for a small favor? If you're liking what we do, click the like button to show your support. It truly means a lot. Thanks again. The first pressure point arrives sooner than most expect, and it centers on a veteran running back the Bears have been quietly watching. Yet another storyline carries equally significant implications: the situation surrounding Alvin Kamara's future in New Orleans. Speculation about the veteran's availability has persisted throughout the early portion of the schedule, and Chicago's actions over the next 7 days could establish whether they'll pursue him seriously or step back entirely. New Orleans enters Sunday's Patriots game as a 3.5-point underdog, a line that reflects broader skepticism about their trajectory. Spencer Rattler has displayed occasional promise, but the Saints appear headed toward a 1-5 record. As the deadline approaches, New Orleans may genuinely consider moving their established, well-regarded back. One scheduling quirk heightens the urgency. Chicago faces the Saints in Week 7. Organizations rarely complete transactions with opponents they're about to meet, a practical consideration that compresses the Bears' decision-making timeline. If genuine interest exists, polls must act before that window closes completely. DeAndre Swift continues struggling to generate consistent production, and Monday night presents a formidable test. Washington's run defense grades among the league's elite, according to Pro Football Focus evaluation, and another subpar showing could intensify pressure to explore external options at the position. However, Johnson has defended Swift in media availability and resisted singling out individual players for the collective struggles of the backfield. A surprisingly effective performance, though not the likeliest scenario, might persuade both Johnson and general manager Ryan Poles that pursuing outside help isn't required. The Bears may not be alone in their interest. Kansas City and Los Angeles have reportedly examined veteran running back options, meaning Chicago cannot afford extended deliberation if they want a legitimate chance at acquiring him. Whether the Bears ultimately pursue Kamara or stand pat, Week 6 increasingly appears as a critical inflection point in the veteran situation. Multiple consecutive defeats typically accelerate front office discussions. Decision makers must evaluate whether roster stability or immediate improvement takes priority. Cap considerations and contract structures inform every mid-season conversation. Poles and his staff must weigh present competitiveness against future flexibility. Medical evaluations and schematic compatibility shape any proposed exchange. Interest from competing organizations frequently forces accelerated resolutions. Public perception, media attention, and strategic presentation also influence internal assessments. Any acquisition demands both measurable on-field enhancement and sound financial reasoning. Deadlines, administrative requirements, and health screenings limit the practical window for completing transactions. Across the division, a different kind of threat is emerging, one that could haunt Chicago's pass protection for years to come. One roster addition by Detroit would send shockwaves through Bears fans, and the possibility is uncomfortably realistic. Chicago hopes to avoid becoming an easy target in the NFC North, but the division remains the league's most unforgiving. Detroit has opened 4-1 and has established itself as the group's dominant force. Yet the Lions still have room to become more formidable. Sar Benninger of NFL Spin Zone identified a plausible scenario in which Detroit acquires Cincinnati edge rusher Trey Hendrickson, and for Bears supporters, that development would represent a worst-case scenario. Hendrickson consistently collapses pockets and harasses quarterbacks. Given Chicago's occasional offensive line vulnerabilities, the thought of him joining the division is deeply troubling. As unsettling as it sounds, the trade logic is solid. Hendrickson turns 31 in December and is scheduled to hit free agency after the season concludes. Considering the contract disputes he experienced with Cincinnati, his return to the Bengals next year seems improbable. Cincinnati did acquire Joe Flacco, a move that could stabilize their early struggles. If Flacco helps keep the Bengals competitive through the deadline, Cincinnati may choose to retain Hendrickson rather than dealing him to elsewhere. Bears fans should quietly hope Cincinnati wins enough games to make Hendrickson unavailable. Any development that strengthens Detroit damages Chicago's prospects. The Lions already pose a legitimate threat. They don't require additional weaponry. From a scheduling perspective, Chicago doesn't face Detroit again until Week 18. They absorbed a lopsided defeat to the Lions in Week 2, but ideally, the Bears will have transformed significantly before the final contest. Not because Detroit weakens, but because Chicago improves. Hendrickson has recorded 17.5 sacks in consecutive seasons and has already tallied 4 through 5 games this year. Should he land in Detroit, he would instantly become a perpetual problem, so here's hoping the Bengals continue winning, just not against Chicago in upcoming weeks.
While external threats loom large, the Bears' own defensive struggles demand immediate attention from the front office. Could one veteran edge presence provide the immediate solution Chicago's defense desperately requires? The bye week has concluded, and the urgent question facing Dennis Allen is how to generate more reliable pressure. Through the season's opening quarter, the Bears rank near the league's bottom in sacks, and their run defense has struggled, creating added urgency around potential front office moves. Rotational contributors including Montez Sweat, Daya Odiengbo, Tano Kapasignan, and Dominic Robinson will benefit from Austin Booker's return, but the group still lacks an elite, dependable edge presence. That deficiency explains why the Bears should, at minimum, examine a potential deal for Jermaine Johnson, the 6'5", 254-pound former first-rounder from the New York Jets. The Jets selected Johnson in the first round of 2022, and he established himself as a full-time starter in 2023, when he started all 17 contests and finished with 7.5 sacks, 56 total pressures, a pick 6, and 7 pass breakups, a performance that earned him Pro Bowl recognition. An Achilles injury cost him most of 2024, but the 26-year-old returned this season and has displayed flashes while also missing time with a recent ankle problem. The Jets also exercised his fifth-year option, indicating sustained organizational investment. Dennis Allen favors defensive structures that enable four-down linemen to win without excessive blitzing, preserving disguised coverage principles. Johnson's length and capacity to secure the edge on early downs, combined with sufficient technique to execute assignment football, make him a natural schematic match for Chicago if they pursue an immediate upgrade. New York is unlikely to surrender a recent first-round edge at 26 without meaningful compensation, but historical precedent provides a reasonable valuation framework. Brian Burns commanded a second and a fifth in a significant trade. Haason Reddick's move cost an acquiring club a conditional third. A logical Bears proposal could be a 2026 third that converts to a 2026 second if Johnson reaches snap and sack benchmarks over the next 2 seasons, plus a late-round addition, for example, a 2027 sixth. With the NFL trade deadline on November 4 less than a month away and a 0-5 Jets club trending towards seller status, New York could at least entertain offers. Chicago will almost certainly evaluate Austin Booker's health and immediate contribution before acting, but their defensive line depth appears one additional injury away from genuine crisis. Acquiring Johnson would supply rotational reinforcement and a young, high-ceiling starter. On the offensive side of the ball, another bold trade proposal has emerged that could reshape Chicago's entire backfield identity. Could a calculated deadline gamble on Achane immediately transform Chicago's offensive identity? The Bears' ground game has been a persistent liability through the season's opening stretch, and some analysts contend that acquiring a genuinely explosive back could alter the offense's entire trajectory. The concept is simple. Provide Caleb Williams with another dynamic weapon and allow the offense to attack defenses both vertically and horizontally. Pro Football Network's Josh Wheel included Achane in his one trade per team projection, proposing a package that sends Roschon Johnson and a 2026 second and fourth to Miami. The cost is substantial, but Wheel argues Achane's blend of speed, receiving ability, and relatively modest short-term cap impact makes him an upgrade over current options. Since Miami selected Achane in the third round of the 2023 NFL Draft, he has delivered consistent big play production, accumulating over 800 yards in rushing in each of his first 2 seasons and contributing as a receiver out of the backfield. Through his first 32 NFL games, he's amassed nearly 2,000 yards from scrimmage and 26 total touchdowns, demonstrating an ability to break runs and create explosive gains in space. Wheel's hypothetical exchange, Achane to Chicago for Roschon Johnson plus a 2026 second and fourth, would be expensive, particularly considering the Bears' need to manage 2026 cap and draft capital considerations. DeAndre Swift currently leads the Bears with 187 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and head coach Ben Johnson has publicly avoided assigning blame to a single back for the unit's struggles. Whether general manager Ryan Poles chooses to be an active buyer at the November 4 trade deadline remains uncertain. If Poles does act, the move would be high-risk, high-reward, potentially accelerating Caleb Williams' development at the expense of premium future assets. Which move do you think Ryan Poles should prioritize at the deadline? Upgrading the running back room, or fortifying the defensive front? Are you in the aggressive buyer camp, or do you believe the Bears should protect their draft capital and develop from within? Leave your analysis in the comments, it's very important. Before you go, hit that like and subscribe button, be part of our community and stay updated. Let's keep Bears strong together. Catch you in the next one.